we're covering here today is basically taking apart this van and getting the radiator out of the vehicle and verifying that the radiator is bad in person. I'm going to be taking out both the bars right here, the overflow reservoir, the breathing assembly, the battery, and then we're going to have to unmount the motor mounts right here. Just enough to get that terminal off there. That's off there. V-jaw goes right around it, and I'm just going to grip it and twist it back and forth, get it broke loose, and then you can easily pop it off here, like so. A 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter socket, 3/8 drive ratchet. They take apart the 13 millimeter bolts on these bars here. Take my breaker bar here, right underneath it right there, and then you pop up on it. Just raise up on these clips here and break it loose, or remove the whole bar. As you can see, it's attached right there. Move the whole thing out of the way. Old plastic shopping bag wrapped around the bolt that was on the back side right here. Slide it down inside your tube and readjust your clamp. Once you do that, you can move this whole thing, and if any of that antifreeze starts coming back feeding out of the hose right there, it'll stop it from escaping. Now, motor mounts here along with your bar is all going to have 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter bolts. Once I've got everything attached here, I can extend the handle out, put it on the fasteners, and go ahead and start breaking it loose. I'm going to push up on the tab here and turn it into a ratchet. We'll work on getting this bar loosened up and moved out of my way. Remove this. We're going to focus on this left side motor mount and get these bolts took out. Just take the motor mount and raise it up and get this breather assembly out of the way. Tabs here, push in on this clip and unplug your electrical connections. Get a 5/16 driver, loosen up these clamps. Pull it out of the way here, remove our air filter. I need to move this, but I do want it to be where I can turn it back and forth. Two 10 millimeter fasteners over here, go ahead and take those out. Pull up on it here. See here, this is protected because that's going to be your computer. That's the brains of this system. You definitely don't want to damage that. Exactly why you want that battery unplugged. The 10 millimeter socket, a nice long extension, and a 3/8 drive ratchet. I'm going to take apart 3 of these 10 millimeter bolts. When that's loose and the bolts are removed, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the brains here into the box. Since the box is moved, I can always maneuver it wherever I need to in order to get down in there. Easily pick this up, set it out of the way. This type of vantage point, you got a lot more room to maneuver, and you can actually get down in here to these lines and the fasteners that you need to loosen up. These are actually hooked to flex hoses right there, so you just got to be careful whenever you're unhooking them from this side and the other. Listen, I've seen some videos out here where people will recommend going ahead and cutting your radiator hose, but that's just you wasting money if you don't need to. CHANNELLOCK speed grip V-jaw pliers, you really can't beat them. Clamp them, loosen it up, and remove your clamp. Push on down the hose. Then open your pliers up a little bit. Make sure the hose is good and broke loose. Pull it right off here. I have a few clips right here, right down here, that you need to pop loose. Just get yourself a flathead screwdriver and pry on it right here, and you can pop them loose. That way you can remove this harness just enough to get in behind here and remove that hose, get everything out of your way. This one is in a very nice tight confined space, so you're really not going to be able to get some pliers around it to break it loose. Typically what a hose hook's for. In this situation, you do not necessarily have to maneuver it as long as you pull it up out of the way here so you can move it back and forth and out of the way. You can remove all your fan and all that sort of stuff. Now, since these hoses right here run to the condenser, which is essentially in front of your radiator, you're going to have to be very gently with those. Otherwise, you'll have to evacuate the entire AC system. That's just an extra cost. Plus, it's illegal to vent the AC system into the atmosphere. But as long as you take your time and try to do it right, you should be able to get it removed. All the ones hooked to the radiator itself should be a 10 millimeter, so we're going to go ahead and start with that one right here. This one down here hooks to the fan. I want you to look right here on the bottom because the fan basically sits inside of that little clip right there. It's right above the weak plug. Take the bolt out, turn this around, pull it right out of there. One of your mounts, loosening this one up by hand. The one that's hooking up to the fan down here is going to be a 5/16. Get your little 1/4 inch drive and a 5/16 socket here and put it on it. Go ahead and get it loosened up. Now that is a bracket that's holding those lines on there, so you can go ahead and pop that bracket loose. Most of the time, you can pop it up over there. Get all this out of the way. Install the fastener. This out of the way, 10 millimeter. If you look right here in the center, you're going to have a fastener right there. Go ahead and get it out. Pop this off here. Got the same 10 millimeter on the mount over here. And then do the exact same thing to the one on your fan. Over here to the center of your fan, and get this wire and harness unplugged. Pull out this little blue clip here. It's basically like a safety feature so it doesn't accidentally unplug itself. Pull back on it. You pull back on that little clip right there, simply pull up on the harness and it'll unplug it. There you go. Now that we've got to this point in the repair, you want to go ahead and take apart this motor mount right here and set it up out of the way so we can remove the fan. cable here. Gonna go ahead and unhook it from this right here. It's the clip basically that holds it in. Once you remove that, you'll be able to have some room with this cable. Screwdriver and push it down and out of the way, and it'll pop loose. A little bit of slack with your hood cable here. And you can set this the rest of the way up and out of the way. You see, you will have access to remove the fan and pull it straight up. I'll bend this up and out of the way as much as possible. Get as much room as you can. Before we pull this fan out of here, you got these two flex hoses down here. They're inside of these little clips. You just need to pry up on them and pop them out of those clips. Reach down here with your hand. Up, push down. Just make sure that they're set free. Same to this other one here, because you want each one of these out of your way. You don't want them attached to your fan. Remember, you still got them little lines down here. You can clearly see where it's moving back and forth. So whenever you're removing it, don't try to force it past that line. Try to maneuver it around that line. You'll have enough wiggle room on this side to do that. So go ahead and set all this stuff up and out of the way. Now, once I got it broke loose here, I'm going to lift up and I'm going to push it toward the driver's side as I'm pulling up on it. That way we can remove it. You don't want to pull up on the radiator. You want to maneuver it around this line on your left. So you kind of go up. Then you have a little bit of clearance. You want to pull it straight up and out from the driver's side, like so. It's right here. Now you have removed your fan successfully. Right up here, we got to get this line loosened up and that hose down there removed. You have one of these on the top and the bottom. Pop it off here. And there's a little snap ring that rests over top of that. It's a little cheapo $1 pick set from Harbor Freight. Go ahead and push this thing around through here. Maneuver it until you see the spot you need. As long as you can get that hook run down in there and then pry back on it and pull it out. Nice and gentle so you don't lose it. Here we go. Here's what you're removing. Definitely put this somewhere that you're not going to lose it. Now I want to remove that hose. My bead jaws here. I'm adjusted. Wrap them around it. Get a nice tight grip. Go ahead and break this loose. Now as soon as that's loosened up, be out of the way where you can maneuver. Then you can get down here to your lower radiator hose. Now this is a flex hose, so you can just set it up out of the way. Again, I'm going to take my feed jaw pliers here. This is upside down. I can still maneuver these jaws around to where I can get this clamp squeezed together and at least turn it to where I can get it in a much better position. And then once I get it in that good position, just gotta wiggle it back and forth here. Get off of that hose. Take one hand, adjust it down, make the jaws wider. That way I can wrap it around the hose and make sure it's broke loose and finish pulling it off of there, like so. Now we gotta get down to that last line and pull that little snap ring off of it. Do the exact same thing, unthread it, get it loosened up. Pop that little clamp off of it. That might take a little bit of maneuvering, but once you get that one off of there, like I said, do the exact same thing to the bottom line. We'll readjust our V jaws. Go ahead and get it broke loose there. Beautiful thing about channel locks, you can flip them over and use them in either direction. They will grip with this V-jaw design, and the speed grip allows you to get a nice precise grip. Now, as soon as this is loosened up entirely, like I said, it's on a flex hose, you just wiggle it there out of the way. You really can't beat having a pair of pliers like this. Highly recommended. Right there's the problem that I'm worried about though. Whenever you detach this stuff, it looks like oil. Oil is mixed in with it, and if that's the case, that means the head gasket, when it got hot, it probably went bad, blew out. Wipe it on the lap band here. Really see there's some brown mixed in. I'd say that it's got a blown head gasket too. The problem from this point forward is the fact that the radiator is hooked up to the condenser, which is what these lines over here is going to go to. Wraps around the front, goes to that side. You basically pull up on the radiator and move it forward to get it out of its little holes that it's got on the bottom there. And if you look at it right here, you'll see this part is the radiator. This part back here is sitting inside of a clip that's going to be leading to the condenser. Start on the passenger side here with a screwdriver. I'll wedge it up against the radiator. I'm going to push up against that and pop it out of that clip. That over here is definitely loosened up. Now I'm coming over here to the driver's side and I'm basically doing the exact same thing. Up on it. Now that that's broke loose, you ain't got to worry about these lines right here. Now we can pull this radiator out here. Set everything up just as we did earlier. Down in here and grab it. Just be careful whenever you're maneuvering it. You don't want to run into other lines. If you got any lines hanging up on the bottom, make sure you maneuver them out of the way, because there is clips on this condenser down there and everything else. You just got to kind of wiggle it back and forth. Jigsaw puzzle. It's coming out. All you got left to do is maneuver it and slowly guide it around all these lines until it's up and out. And then once you get it out, it's out. There is your radiator. Now I locked in one of these motor mounts. Let's see if we can tell where it's leaking at. We definitely found where it was cracked at, right here. You see how that's been latched together with the plastic part of the housing? Right there is where the problem is. It cracked all along that seam. Said if we got a head gasket blown, we got much bigger problems. So for these follow-up videos, make sure you pop that clutch, subscribe, check out these social media platforms. It's all about saving you some money so you can make more of it. If you want to check out some of the tool reviews of the tools that I've used in this video, it'll be linked down in the description box below. Stay tuned for part 2 and 3 and keep doing that blue collar hustle.